Hey, it's Mitchtram here. Let's chat a little bit today about matching lure speed to your reel speed. And before we get into that, I want to be really straight with everybody. Reel speed is not going to magically make you catch more fish. Plenty of anglers run one reel for everything and do just fine. You've probably done it. I've absolutely done it. What matching the reel speed for your bait actually does is it makes the technique a little bit easier. It takes some of the thinking out of it. So instead of reminding yourself to slow down on a deep crankbait, or you're scrambling to catch up on a hook set or slack, the reel is just working with you and you're not focusing so much on managing the gear, you're focusing more on fishing. So it just helps. It doesn't magically fix anything. And that's what this is all about. It's about refinement, not a magic fix. So with that said, there are some real reasons why certain baits fish better on slower reels and certain baits fish better on faster reels. And we're going to break that into three ranges. We're going to talk about moving baits, rod worked baits, heavy cover, and I'll tell you what belongs in each one and why. And before we get any further into this, there's one thing you should understand. If your reel is moving the bait, reel speed controls the bait. If the rod is moving the bait, reel speed controls your slack. That's it. That's really kind of this whole thing. A crankbait comes back on a reel, so the reel speed controls how fast that bait moves, how deep it stays down, and how hard it pulls. On the other hand, if you have like a Texas rig, that's worked with the rod. You lift it, you drag it, you hop it, you let it set. The reel is just picking up line. So what you need out of that reel is the ability to catch up with the fish and the line fast, not make this bait swim. That sounds like a small difference. It really isn't. It changes everything about which reel belongs on which rod. One other thing I want to mention before we get into the ranges, the 5X, 6X, 7X, 8X, gear ratio is not the whole story. Two reels can have the same gear ratio and retrieve completely different amounts of line per turn, depending on their spool diameter and how full that spool is. That number is called IPT, which is inches per turn, and it's actually the more accurate thing to look at when you're comparing reels side by side. And if you look on the bottom of that reel, it says 22. So every reel, I write the IPT on the bottom of it, so I easily can reference how much line it's actually picking up. Now, I have a full video about IPT on the channel if you want to check that out. I'll link it at the end of the video. For this video, we're going to talk gear ratios because that's what's printed on most reels and it's the easiest reference point. Just know that when you're picking up a reel, look at IPT. It's the number you really want to understand because it tells you what's actually happening. All right, now let's get to the speeds. Now, 5 and 6X reels, these are your moving bait reels, where the reel is doing most of the work. Think about crankbaits, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, swim baits, big plug. The reel brings them back, so the reel speed directly controls how the bait behaves in the water. The difference between 5X and 6X really comes down to how hard the bait pulls. So thinking about your deep diving crankbaits or your big plugs, maybe even a big Colorado blade spinnerbait like that, those pull hard on the whole retrieve. A slow reel, it gives you more mechanical advantage. It's easier to turn the handle over a long day of cranking. That's really what it comes down to. The other thing it does, it also keeps you from burning that bait back too fast. A deep diving crankbait needs time to get down, deflect off the bottom, hit the cover, and stay in that strike zone. And that reel helps you do that. Here's where I use it quite a bit, is colder water. And this matters. In the late fall, In the winter, if you can fish in the winter, some of us can, some of us can't, depends on, where you're at in the US. And early spring, fish don't want something flying past them. A slower reel helps keep you honest, right? Because a lot of us, we say we're going to slow down, then 5 minutes later, our hand is moving faster than we think. Now, when we think about most of your standard moving baits, like your willow blade, spinner baits, chatterbaits, square bills, medium crankbaits, paddle tails, swim baits, swim jigs, those fit well within the 6X range, but they can also go into the 7-inch range, and we'll talk about that too. You can speed up or slow down pretty easily without fighting the reel, and that flexibility is what kind of makes that 6X speed a workhorse. Now think about this big Colorado blade spinnerbait in colder water. I'd go closer to the 5-speed with that, which is going to be in your 21 to like 24 inches per turn, I think. That's what this reel is. That blade has a lot of resistance, and that slower reel, it'll kind of keep it riding lower in the water column on a steady retrieve. And that's what you want in your colder water. Now, do you have to have a 5X speed reel for deep diving crankbaits? Absolutely not. A 6-speed, a 7-speed, they'll catch plenty of fish. But if I'm spending a lot of time cranking deep with a hard pulling bait, I'd rather have that slower reel. It's just easier on you over a long day. And the other thing it does, it helps you help the bait do what the bait is supposed to do. Now let's talk about the 7X reel. The 7X reel is kind of your all-around general reel. And this one is 28 inches per turn. I have it written there on the bottom. A 7-speed sits right in the middle, and that's what makes it one of the most useful reels you own. On the moving bait side, a 7.x speed is where you start thinking about faster presentations. Thinking about burning a lipless crankbait through grass, ripping it out, letting it fall, or pulling a faster spinnerbait presentation, covering a lot of water, or pulling that spinnerbait fast and then pausing a little bit, letting it fall, and then picking it back up. That 7X is going to help you there. Even a swim jig with a quicker, more aggressive action, 7X is going to help you there. These are still reel-driven baits, right? So the reel is still doing the work. It's pulling the line in, it's moving the bait. But you want a little more speed out of the retrieve than you get out of a 6X without having to speed up. A lipless crankbait is a real good example of this. If you're steady winding one, a 6-speed works great for that. But if you're ripping it through grass, pausing it to kill it, letting it fall, ripping it again, you need to pick up that slack faster and stay connected. And that's where that 7X is going to help you with those moving baits. Now on the other side of that, the 7X, it works great for rod worked baits. So thinking about like the Texas rig, a jig, Carolina rig, a shaky head, maybe walking topwater bait, jerk baits. With these baits, you're not turning the handle. You're using your rod to lift the bait off the bottom, drag the bait, hop it, shake it a little bit, let it set. Then you just reel up the slack. The reel's job isn't to make that worm swim, right? The reel's job is to keep you connected the whole time. Another one of my favorite baits falls into this is the jerk bait. The rod works the bait. Twitch, twitch, pause. The reel manages the slack during those pauses. And that pause is where it matters. If you have too much tension on the line and you're pulling the bait forward instead of letting it hang and shimmy, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. The jerk bait does most of the work on the pause. You don't want to reel pulling that bait out of position and just pulling it through the water most of the time. And the jerk bait is a bait that works really well with both a 6 and 7X reel. Now thinking about your Texas rig baits, whether it's a worm or a creature bait, the bite, we've talked about this a lot, it feels like a tick, or it gets mushy or heavy, your line starts moving sideways. Sometimes the fish eats it and it comes right at you. In any of those situations, you need the reel to pick up the slack, and then you're going to set the hook. On a slow reel, you're cranking a lot more trying to catch up. On that 7.x speed, you're there. And 8x speed works here too. Some guys prefer it for exactly that reason, picking up that line quick so they can set that hook. On rod worked baits, a faster reel isn't about fishing the bait fast, it's about recovering that line faster. Sometimes people see a 7.x reel and they think they've got to burn the bait back. You don't. You're still working that jig, that Texas rig, the same slow way. The speed is there for when it counts to maintain that hook set, to catch up with the fish. Now with walking topwaters, the rod makes the bait walk, right? You actually need some slack to get that natural side-to-side action look right. If you get too tight, you'll pull it forward instead of letting it do that walk. But too much slack, a fish blows up on it and you may not catch up in time. So a 7x reel helps you manage that balance. So think about the 7x as two things at once. It's your faster moving bait reel when you need to cover a lot of water or rip a bait aggressively. And it's your rod worked bait reel when the hook set speed and slack pickup are what matters. Now, all that said, if you're only running one reel, a 7.x speed is probably what you want. It handles more situations than any other speed range, and that's really why you see the 7x reel on a lot of setups. Now, we got our really fast reels, our 8.x, 9.x, 10.x, and these reels, they've only been around for about 12 or 15 years, like the late or mid 90s, I think is kind of when they came out, like 12, 15 years ago. So, people managed all of these baits previously without these faster reels, but they do provide an advantage. For frogs, if you have buzz baits you want to bring back quickly, flipping and pitching, maybe a jig, you need to catch up immediately and control that fish. And that's where these help. With a hollow body frog, as an example, you're fishing around grass, maybe lily pads, laydowns, mats. And when a fish eats that frog, things happen fast. It can eat that frog and turn. It can eat that frog and come right at you. It might eat that frog and try to bury itself down into that laydown. You need to pick up that slack quick, set the hook, and then turn that fish around. And it's not because you're dragging the frog across the top fast. It's because when that fish eats it, you want to be in control immediately because you're fishing around some tough stuff typically. And then we have our buzzbait. And this is a little different. You can work a buzzbait with a slower reel. But if you want to get that buzzbait working as soon as it hits the water, that faster reel is going to help you pick that slack up and start burning that buzzbait as soon as it hits the water. It lands next to a laydown. You don't want it to sink for 2 or 3 seconds before it gets moving. As soon as it hits, you want to start moving that bait. A faster reel just gets it up and working right away. But you don't want to let that speed make you reel too fast either. You can still overwork a buzzbait. The reel helps you get it started quickly. Your hands control the rest. And then we think about for flipping and pitching, whether you're flipping a Texas rig in there or a jig or whatever it may be, you have short casts, your bait falls, you shake it a couple of times, you either get bit or you need to reel it back and pitch again. So a fast reel helps you in 2 ways here. One, if a fish eats it, you can get that fish moving quick, right? And you can pull that fish out of wherever that fish is, a laydown, whatever it may be. 2, if you don't get bit right away, there's probably nothing in between where you pitched that bait and the boat, right? Or the shore if you're walking along, flipping and pitching. But you want to get that bait back quickly so you can do it again. And that faster reel helps with that because of the flip and pitch. You pitch it out there, jig it a couple times, nothing happens. You pull it back real quick and you do it again, right? So that faster reel helps you in 2 ways there. And that faster speed, getting that bait out there and getting it back, that adds up over a long day of target fishing for sure. So I'll leave you with this. Don't think of a reel speed as good or bad. Think of it as matching the tool to the job. A 5 or 6 speed, great for moving baits that pull hard or need a very controlled retrieve. A 7 speed for your faster moving baits and your presentations that are rod worked. It does both really well. Your 8 speed reel, which this one is 36 inches per turn, heavy cover and anywhere you need to catch up really quickly. Now, if you want to get a little deeper on the difference between gear ratio and IPT, I've got another video that breaks that down right here. Because that number on the side plate doesn't always tell the whole story, and understanding that IPT really goes a long way. If this helped you out, hit subscribe. I'm putting out straightforward fishing videos like this every week. No hype, no gimmicks, just the stuff that helps you catch more fish. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.